Bro, that intro music is busting. All right, man. So it's BJ with Native Rods. How y'all doing? I'm here with my man, Big Man Bassin.
What is up?
Yeah, a lot of y'all know him from either Instagram or the shop or YouTube. This guy's all over the place. He's kind of
I live the ADHD mentality.
He does.
I'm all over the place.
So introduce yourself, man. Let them know what the Big Man Bassin is all about.
So I'm the Big Man Bassin. My name's Richard, or some of you guys know me as Tyler, or however you guys know me, you know me. Like BJ said, I work over at Native for him. Also big on the YouTube side of things, and also big on the fisherman side of things. Primarily I do a lot of freshwater stuff. That's why I'm Big Man Bassing, not Fat Guy Snooking.
Yeah.
I don't catch big fish like that, but I like my ditch pickles and the stuff that comes out of the water. And it's a fun mentality.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, man, I've been kind of contemplating on what podcast to do next, man. And I think this is the one. I think exotics.
We all like our exotics.
Yeah, I thought what better person than the guy who lives and eats, sleeps, and breathes exotics.
Oh yeah.
I kind of want to go. I mean, we're Southwest Florida, right? So I kind of want to go over the exotics that are in our area first, and kind of go through them and let people know, what we fish for on a regular basis, and then kind of go out into some other places like Miami, that area, the Everglades, stuff like that.
You just move around the map.
Yeah. But I kind of want to go. And we've been starting these podcasts out by going over like basically step by step for somebody who's never fished for peacocks, that's from Michigan or from wherever. They come down, they know nothing about peacocks, but they want to catch peacock bass, and they think they got to go to Miami, or they want to catch snakeheads, they think they got to go to Miami, or they don't know at all, or whatever. So I kind of want to start as somebody who's new to fishing and new to exotics, right? So I kind of want to break down rods, reels, leader, line, all that stuff. So if I was brand new to this and I walked into the shop and I said, hey, I want to catch some peacock bass, I have nothing. What are you going to hook me up with, man?
So simply, if you come in and you have nothing in your hand, I'm going to try to sell your rod and reel first, because without that, we don't have much to give you.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to probably run along. We're going to go probably with a 7-footer, 7.6 rod, either in that 10 to 20 category, or, maybe a little bit lighter, depending on how experienced you are. We're going to probably team that up anything with a 2,500 to a 4,000 size reel.
Okay.
And we're going to run anywhere from 15 to 20 pound braid on that. Maybe a little bit lighter if you're used to it. The only reason I recommend the higher pound stuff and some of the bigger gear is, especially here, we do see a little bit of mixture of water. We get that brackish water mix in some of our canal chains. So here you will see, some snook and tarpon mixed in that area with the peacock bass.
Okay. A lot of people don't know that in, straight freshwater ponds, you can get your tarpon, your snook, even redfish,
Absolutely.
100% freshwater pond.
Yeah, it's kind of the crazy thing about Florida. Everyone jokes about how wild and crazy it is, and the fishing doesn't disappoint in that category either.
Yeah, no, dude. No, I've gone inland. Lehigh's probably, 30 miles inland, and you can get shark's teeth out of the sand.
Yeah. And there's people catching snook and tarpon in Lehigh right now too.
Yeah, we live in Jurassic Park, man. It's awesome.
There's some crazy dinosaurs here.
Yeah, definitely. So we're at, you say, in between 7.6, right? Mm-hmm. 3,000, and you said 25 pound braid.
So typically, what I do is, for me, a little bit more experience, I'll run 10 pound on a lot of my stuff. But for someone just coming in with nothing in hand, I'll recommend 15 to 20.
Okay, 20. Okay, cool. 15,
and then for leader, anywhere from maybe 15, 20, or 25 pound leader.
Yeah, definitely. I know my combo, my setup for peacock bass is a 2,500 Daiwa BG on one of our custom rods. It's a 7.6, 8 to 10 pound rod, and I run 10 pound braid and like 20 pound leader. That's my go-to for that. I like to fight a little bit more. I know a lot of people haven't got that down yet, you know.
The finesse, absolutely. Yeah, for me, my go-to rod for myself when I want to go down there and have fun, I have a 1500 BG
Okay.
and a 2000 BG, and those are
Okay.
some of the. I don't want to say those are some of the bigger reels I'll bring with me, but I have a 1000 size. I have some of the smaller sizes, stuff like that.
Okay.
And I mean, it's fun to fight, 5-6 pound fish that fight like peacocks do with 5 pounds of drag. It adds that little bit more style to it.
So
But
where can yeah, definitely. Where in Florida can I find these peacocks, and how far south in Florida do I have to go to find them?
So surprisingly, especially on this coast, a lot has changed on that. If you were fishing on this coast 8 years ago, you would have to go all the way down to Naples and Golden Gate to catch peacocks on the west coast of Florida.
Really?
As of right now, we're seeing a steady push north. Now, this winter is probably going to test a lot of it because we're expected to have a pretty cold winter for the 2023-2024 winter. Yeah. And right now, we have seen peacocks as far north as Northport. But if you're looking for that steady population where you're guaranteed more than maybe one or two, you're definitely not want to go much further than Cape Coral.
Okay.
So, right here in our own backyard is about as far north as you want to go on the west coast for peacocks.
Definitely. So talking about that, we were talking about you had to go south before. What changed that? How did the peacocks get up here in Cape and Fort Myers and that area?
So that's pretty easy. There's two answers to it. So for that, Florida Fish and Wildlife did do some stocking on our coast for peacock bass. They are considered a Florida state game fish now. Then a lot of people bounce between the whole invasive and introduced ideas. They aren't introduced species to help combat invasives. So the state of Florida does give funding to Florida Fish and Wildlife to introduce these fish to help combat our invasive species populations. And that's what kind of happened with Lake Kennedy.
Yeah.
Lake Kennedy is one of the largest canal chains here in Cape Coral. And they put in a few thousand. Back at like 2021, the 2019 to 2021 winter, we had a really bad freeze, and we did lose a good amount of the population, but they have restocked and replenished through that. And right now in Cape, every single canal chain you can get has peacocks in it. Now, Florida Fish and Wildlife did not stock every one of those canal chains and every single one of these bodies of water that has them. People did. So they kind of transported fish from the south, which is kind of a sticky, rules and regs on that. You really shouldn't be moving game fish, but people are doing it regardless. Yeah,
definitely. Do you think that, so basically, I guess if we're talking about them introducing that, we should kind of step back and explain what fish they were introduced to eat. Florida has a big invasive plant problem, right? And FWC released tilapia to kind of take care of that problem. And then that didn't work so good because they didn't realize that they mated like 20 times a year and had 10,000 babies at a time. And we kind of got overpopulated with tilapia, right?
Yeah, no, they became a super invasive fish, and not only because of the way they bred, but the way they bred, multiple times a year. But it also pushed a lot of our native fish off beds, so they didn't have to make their own or anything like that. It just became that they were taking out invasive species, or they became an invasive species taking out native species left and right.
Yeah. So peacocks eat tilapia fry?
Yeah. So they'll smoke the tilapia fry even at a super young age with these peacocks, as they breed in the earlier parts of the year, April, May.
Okay.
Even with those the fry grow super fast for peacock bass. And because they're able to eat other fish basically within the first few weeks, when these huge schools of peacock fry and big peacocks move along the beach, they're picking off everything that, swims by. So they're able to eat tilapia fry at a very young age. And there's so much of it, it just becomes a ready food source for them, along with other invasive species.
Really? Yeah, it's wild, man. Those, a lot of people don't realize how aggressive a peacock bass is, dude. They are. Oh, yeah. I think they're the most aggressive freshwater fish that there is. as far as the way that they eat. Like I've took shiners and like threw them in the air, and the peacock bass will follow the shiner, while the shiner's in the air, waiting to go smack it.
Oh yeah, they're very. I mean, a lot of people compare them to fighting like a small jack, like for your saltwater fishermen.
Mm-hmm.
Your small jack crevalle, stuff like that, bluefish, because they're
Yeah.
just hard fighting and they give it their all to try to not make it to the bank.
Yeah, that's wild, man. So as far as like spots go, if I'm looking for a spot, like I said, still brand new to it, and I'm looking on Google Maps or something like that, what screams peacock? I know that that's changed over time, because it was kind of spring fed ponds and stuff like that. It's the only place you'd find them, and then all of a sudden that changed. So what happened?
So, I mean, if you're diving in with no knowledge of the area, I would always suggest talking to a local bait store first.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're coming to us for tackle and shiners and all those other needs, you're going to come in and you're going to go, hey, where should I fish? And typically I'll go, well, what are you fishing for? And that'll help me narrow it down. So if I have someone come in that's just looking for a spot, if they want to fish in a local area, I'll tell you, go check out any of the retention ponds in the area. Check those out first, throw a live shiner around, or just check it out and do that. But at the same time, like if you're going to try and go somewhere, the Cape Coral, like I said, has a plentiful amount. Any of the freshwater chains here typically hold peacocks, so it's going to be easy to find them that way.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, Facebook's a huge key on this. There's tons of local groups that you can go and check out, and they're going to give you information there too.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're looking for like structure or things like that, is there anything like that you need to look for?
So typically, think of structure a lot with them. They like to sit on rock ledges and roots. That's how they would sit in the Amazon. They would sit up on rock ledges. They wait for stuff to come by. They're an ambush predator. So if you're looking for peacocks, looking for stuff like that, if you're going to pitch up around reeds or a drop off, that's going to be where I suggest to throw your bait and just work it. Sometimes they like fast and flashy. Sometimes they want it slow and methodical.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I've always had a lot more luck burning a lure or letting a fresh shiner just dart around.
Okay.
Because they like that erratic motion. They like that speed, and they're going to come in and whack it.
So you don't put any bobber or anything like that? No lead, nothing?
Not me personally. I know a lot of guys that do. Some of them want it to sink all the way to the bottom, get past all the small fish, and get to the bigger ones at the bottom. But sometimes these peacocks are sitting up on, 6-7 inches of water, and they're going to hit anything that goes by. So, as I've always said, more tackle gives you more reasons for failure. So that's why I'm hook, line, leader kind of guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So what size hooks do you like to use?
So me personally, I'll go all the way down to like a size 1 live bait hook, all the way up to like a size, maybe a 2-aught.
Okay.
That's about as big as I run, depending on the size of the shiner.
Yeah, definitely. So are you primarily live bait guy or artificial?
If I'm going for numbers, I'm going to use live bait.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going out with a few buddies and we're just trying to, go out and fish, have fun, I'm going to definitely bring shiners with me. But shiners, I don't want to say is almost a guarantee for peacocks.
Yeah.
But it's a live bait fish. It's going to do really well for these, targeting largemouth peacocks, other invasive stuff like that. But for me, I'll always bring a lure rod. And typically for lure wise, like I said, fast and flashy, your small crank baits do well. But for me, I really like the spinner rooster tail with the big bait on it that spins, treble hook, the old classic. Because for me, it's a small bait. Peacocks hit it. You can catch any size peacock on one of those. So really, for me, it's probably one of the best go-tos.
Yeah, definitely. I know for me personally, I like smaller artificial baits, even if it's jigs or whatever, anything small. And then for the live bait, I'm like a big shiner guy, man. I like using big shiners, but at the same time, I like to fill my bucket with a couple minnows, just to kind of find where the fish are,
Oh, yeah. Chum them out, let them see where they're hiding.
Yeah. So we got the combo. We got the area in Florida for peacocks. Is there anything else on peacock specific that you think that somebody should know?
So I will say what I have learned so there's a huge difference for peacocks on our coast here on the west coast of Florida versus the east coast.
Okay.
And people are finally starting to see this and kind of putting this idea together. As aggressive as peacocks are on our coast, they're even more aggressive over on the other coast. Now, why? I'm not sure, but it's actually something that we've noticed a lot when we've talked about peacocks, especially people I know on the other coast. Like I got a few buddies that are over on Lake Ida that charter over there.
Yeah.
And other buddies who always go to like Kendall or Miami, and they're always targeting peacocks that way.
Okay.
And they've always said they're much more aggressive, and I can agree from all the times that I've been on the other coast. These peacocks on the west coast here are almost a little bit more docile, but they spook easier.
Really?
Peacocks over in Miami, you can walk up on and they're going to stare at you.
Really?
You know, like they're almost sizing you up when you're fishing on the other coast. On this coast, you walk up, they just dart.
Dart, yeah. What do you think causes that? If you had to throw a dart at it,
I want to say environment.
Yeah.
You know, over on the other coast, you know, there's a lot of pressure for fishing, but a lot of the pressure for fishing on the other coast has always been saltwater.
Gotcha.
You know, more people go to Miami for the saltwater experience because you're right there at the big drop off. You know, you can go out there and see the coast of Miami and be hooking sailfish, you know. But, you know, there's still a good push of people that go to Miami for freshwater. But a lot of these canals are neighborhoods. Miami's super developed.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's only so many land-based spots in Miami you can get to, and a lot of those land-based spots are overfished. But there's so many peacocks, there's so many other invasives that haven't seen or introduced that haven't seen people.
Yeah.
That they're just fired up and ready to hit anything.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What's if you had to go to your next in the Fort Myers Cape area, what's the next invasive that you think is on our list?
So the next invasive that I've seen a lot of, and it's the only reason I'm going to do it is because it was the first invasive that I caught that really kicked me down this trail.
What was that?
It was I was fishing probably end of 2019 at literally just like a local pond, and I mean this pond is maybe the size of a football field.
Wow. And
we're throwing around, you know. There's all sorts of stuff in this little private pond that's connected to another business, but they allow fishing. And we've seen big largemouth in there, all that. So we're pitching around big live bluegill that we had, and we pitched it out and we were fishing, and my bluegill was almost dead. We're ready to call it a day, and it got hit and ran, and I was completely taken back by what I had in this tiny pond because it was pulling drag like a big saltwater fish. And when we finally started getting it close, we saw it roll, and the tail came up out of the water, and it was a big red tail.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was. My buddy, who's been fishing his entire life just as I have, didn't realize what it was until we had it to the bank, and we had a large red tail catfish actually on the line.
No way, man. That's awesome.
And since then, there has been more and more red tails being caught all around Southwest Florida, and especially in Cape alone. And it's kind of like a secret, because I've talked to other fishermen that are huge on the exotic kick, and they've always thought you have to go to Miami and find these fish.
Yeah.
But I could take people to a spot that I know there's 7 or 8 of them hiding. You know,
what do them things eat? How big can they get? You know.
Well, I mean, they're an Amazonian red-tailed catfish. They're definitely not your normal flathead or stuff like that. They get up to about, you know, upper hundreds in weight.
No way.
So they get big.
Wow.
You know, if you ever watch the TV show River Monsters, he's actually caught a handful English. It's a hard language, guys.
Yeah.
It's my only language.
Right.
He's got a whole bunch that he's caught over the years. And I mean, they're big fish. They fight hard. You know, the fish I caught wasn't huge. It was maybe maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet.
Yeah.
But it smoked my 4K.
Dude, if it lit you up on fishing, that's all that matters. Me and Mike on the last podcast were talking about speckled trout. A lot of people, you know, hate them, but dude, if you get out on a hot bite of speckled trout, it's, you know, it's a whole nother level. So any fish like that excites you, man, is awesome.
Oh yeah, and like for that was a huge kickoff for me to start chasing fish that didn't belong in Florida.
Yeah.
After I hooked into Peacock Bass, got hooked on that addiction. Some more recent stuff that's popped up here, especially in the Southwest Florida areas, Pacu.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I was gonna say too, man, grass carp. A lot of people don't
Oh yeah.
realize like how big they get and how many there is. And
Oh, they get huge. Actually, if some of the people that's followed me on Instagram, I like to actually target grass carp because they're super fun fish to do, and I've actually done a few videos on them.
yeah,
And I took my typical ultralight, and we went out and targeted them. And I mean, they were rip and drag, having fun. You know, the biggest thing that I'll tell anyone who wants to go out and target carp though is spend your time reviving them because they're going to give 110% not to come to the shore.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, they do fight like no other.
Because I did right after Ian blew through. I had a buddy of mine that really didn't even realize there was grass carp in the area. Like he's from up north originally, and he was like, "There's no big grass carp down here. There's none of that." Blah blah blah. And you know, I kind of had to take him and kind of show him that there's actually grass carp that are of good size here in Southwest Florida.
Yeah.
And after that, you know, it's been something that he's targeted, I've targeted, and it's a blast. I'm actually looking for the photo right now.
How do you target these things?
I will tell you, you're going to go back to your grassroots as a kid. You're going to go grab a loaf of bread.
Okay.
And you're going to throw it in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. And, yeah, so just take a dough ball and ball it up.
Typically what I'll do, a lot of these fish are used to being fed, which is going to, you know, bite them in the butt, but it's easy for me to catch them that way.
Yeah, so definitely.
People feeding the ducks, stuff like that. The old lady, you know, sitting there, she's feeding the ducks breadcrumbs, old bagels, stuff like that. Ducks are eating it. The carp are eating it. They eat grass. They eat stuff that's floating on the surface.
Yeah.
So as a kid, I lived right across the street from a canal. So when people would mow their lawns, we'd see the grass clippings in the water, and they'd be eating the grass clippings. So we'd throw our out, do stuff like that, and we'd catch carp. But I mean, there are some absolute monsters if it'll show up. This is Colby, one of our rod guys that teamed up as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Big grass carp that we ended up smoking. You know, he sight casted to it. It was the biggest one in the school. And I mean, that bread hit the water and it ran up on it like it was hungry.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. What do you think is our I personally, I think our next, you know, thing that's coming up over here is snakeheads.
So yeah, we're definitely seeing some.
Yeah. What would you do to target them?
So I mean, snakeheads, that's still a new thing to me, but I have talked to a lot of people who have targeted them. There's like Captain Johnny Stabile on the other coast with Southwest Florida Fishing Charters. He's huge on that. But typically you throw your frogs. You know, there's a great company out with Snakehead Customs, and they make a very sleek bodied frog designed for fishing for this, because these fish have such good jaw pressure and teeth. They'll bite through or destroy regular frogs very easily. Yeah. So, you know, if you want to go to Walmart and pick up a bunch of super cheap frogs and go fishing, that's one way.
Yeah.
If you're using live bait, because they do hit shiners, typically what I'm going to recommend you do is completely ignore everything you know about freshwater fishing and throw on 50-pound leader.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, just, you know, if you're thinking, I'm going to go catch a big snook, that's how you're going to approach a snakehead.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, stuff like that. And it doesn't have to be, you know, the greatest rod on earth, or I've seen people catch them on 2,000-3,000 size reels. It's just those teeth and that bite you got to watch out for.
Yeah. What about right?
Don't lip those fish.
Yeah, no, they're mouthful of teeth. What about the pacu?
So the pacu are cool too. Another cool fish that we've been seeing pop up. A lot of people, you know, the uneducated people, which is not hard to be here because we have such a melting pot of people from around the country and around the world that move here. Mm-hmm. So when you see this little tiny fish that looks like a piranha with a red belly, you think, you know, we got piranha, but it's a red belly pacu. Now, the pacu is the laid back stoner version of a piranha.
Yeah.
It's not a vicious creature. You know, it's not going to tear you apart limb from limb. They are known to bite the family jewels if they're exposed in water. But, you know, if you're not Florida man running around without underwear on in the water, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But they're primarily a vegetarian.
How did they get here?
Aquariums. like a lot of our invasive species, were aquarium fish.
Yeah. Yeah. So people just let them or whatever.
They got too big for their tank. Little mom and dad's like, oh, I'm gonna get little Timmy a 25-gallon fish tank.
Yeah.
And let's get them these pacu because they're vegan piranha.
Yeah. Yeah.
And next thing they know, little Timmy's pacu grew, 6 or 7 inches in the first year and a half. Yep. And now they're too big for the 25-gallon. They're bullying the other fish in the tank. So what do mom and dad do? They can't fit down the toilet anymore.
Yeah.
They can't be like, oh, little Timmy, your fish died. Yep. So what are they going to do? They're going to go dump it in a canal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And because these pacu get huge, like almost the size of grass carp.
Wow. There's
no natural predators.
Really?
So with that, they start schooling around with grass carp, and you'll see them from time to time. Like I've seen a handful of times, especially in my canal chain here in the center of Cape, you'll see a school of grass carp come by, and then there's just this weird dark silhouette following with them. Mm-hmm. Those are pacu.
Gotcha. Would you do anything different on your setup from grass carp?
Definitely. With grass carp, you can run whatever pound line you're comfortable with. This goes back to the same idea of the fishing for snakeheads. Upgrade your leader.
Gotcha.
You can run light tackle on them, have fun all day long, but I'm going to definitely tell you to upgrade their leader because these fish will bite through. Yeah. It just comes back to their jaw strength and the ability for them to crack nuts.
Yeah, definitely. Would you go like the bread approach with them, or would you go shiners? Or
bread works great. They really don't hit live bait. Yeah, if they're aggressive and schooled up young, they will hit smaller stuff. Like I was throwing that same little spinner rooster tail probably a little over a year ago, and that's when I found out there was a good steady population of pacu in my canal chain. Yeah. I actually had 5 or 6 that I caught and removed and put them into a fish tank. But they were all hitting that little spinner bait. So they were schooling up, hitting some smaller baits. But because of that, at first, even I didn't know, because at a young age, their teeth aren't rounded. So if you ever feel like you want to identify one of these things, and I will never suggest it to somebody who's a novice, but you can open their mouth and look. And if their teeth are pointed, then, they're, obviously not a pacu.
Yeah.
Even young pacus don't have rounded teeth just yet.
Okay.
But they're not, the jagged, pyramid teeth.
Yeah.
Before you do that, don't stick your thumb or finger or anything in the mouth of something that you can't positively ID while holding.
Yeah, it's crazy. The first Goliath grouper I ever caught was like 350 pounds. And I was so excited, man. The mouth of this thing, you could fit a 5-gallon bucket inside of it. It's so big. And I caught it off of the beat, right? And I go to grab the mouth, and I pick the head up to like open the mouth, to show how big it was in a picture. And man, the whole top of every finger was wide open because the teeth are so sharp, and they were so small on that big of a fish, but they were sharp, bro.
Oh yeah, I think my biggest eye opener, especially with like going back to peacocks, is they like their mouth abrasion. You can hold them just like you would a normal largemouth.
Yep.
But I put their abrasiveness on their mouth, but between a bass and a snook.
Really?
Because a lot of people don't realize that these fish are, some people think they have teeth. A lot of people think they have teeth.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of novice fishermen like, oh, does it have teeth? Typically, a lot of your freshwater stuff won't.
Yeah.
I remember when I caught my first redfish as a kid, my buddy goes, you just lip it like a bass. No, he lied to me. That hurt.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, you go. Yeah. If you went a little bit further back, it's game over. That's your thumb.
Yeah. I just happened to go a little bit further back because here I am, the big man bassing,
right?
Thumb down the throat, and next thing you know, the old crusher's got my thumb, and I was upset for the rest of the fishing trip.
Oh, I bet, man. I bet. So with these invasives, man, there's a controversial thing over is it a problem? Is it okay? You have so many people that are like, kill every peacock, kill every pacu, and then you have other guys who are like, we love them. Like for me, for instance, when I see a school of plecos, I cast net them and I leave them on the bank. And that's just my personal thing because I've watched how many of them like destroy so many areas. And you would think for a vegetarian fish that it wouldn't cause those problems. But like you said, with the beds and things like that, they definitely cause a lot of problems. So how do you
also
feel?
dig.
Yeah. So how do you feel about, like I mean, we can go through them all: peacock bass, pacu, carp, all of them.
So, for me, I mean, this really comes down to I'll be bluntly honest.
Mhm.
It's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late to care.
Yeah.
So, and I don't mean that in any negative, because trust me, I get it. I've gone to places where I would catch largemouth left and right, and now the only thing I see is tilapia and peacocks.
Yeah.
And sadly, like we talked about peacocks, they're not an invasive species; they're an introduced. Because Florida Fish and Wildlife went, well, we tried to play God a little too much, and we messed up the ecosystem. I mean, look at the pythons.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like the pythons, the iguanas, the monitor lizards.
Yep.
The only thing we can do is go out and harvest them.
Yep.
So I will tell you, there are a lot of good eating fish on the invasive species category. Snakehead tastes great.
Yeah.
Mayan cichlids. I see people keeping them left and right.
Yeah, no, I've actually tried Mayan cichlid, and it's actually really good.
Yeah, I mean, fish is good if you season it well.
Yeah.
Don't try to make sushi out of your typical fish. But, at the same time, another huge one, and again, I'll go back and talk on my buddy on the other coast with South Florida Fishing Charters. He goes down to the Everglades all the time.
Okay.
And where you would typically see thousands and thousands of largemouth, sunfish, crappie, bluegill, all of that, they're pulling Oscars out left and right.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you can fill up a cooler in 30 minutes in the Everglades on Oscars, and that's super invasive fish.
Yeah,
they breed just like the tilapia.
And dude, I mean, I don't know if you've ever had one as a pet and seen them as a pet. They just run everything, dude. They're gangster. They're
have to be solo once they get big enough.
Yeah. They are definitely a mean fish. What about the grass carp, man? A lot of people don't know how grass carp got here.
So the funny thing is, it's one of those things they don't super enforce.
Yeah.
But if you go to Florida Fish and Wildlife regulations, you're going to see they're an introduced species.
Yep.
But they're also supposed to be a sterile introduced species, which means they can't reproduce.
Which is
which is a lie. I'm going to tell you all that right up right now. Just like Jurassic Park, I hate to quote it, but life finds a way.
Yeah.
But they found a way, and they are reproducing. I see juvenile carp normally schooled up with a lot of the bigger adults, and I have seen them in the act of procreation. A little bit of fishy feelings. But they're supposed to not be able to reproduce. You're not supposed to remove them from the water. Theoretically, and I'm not theoretically, by statute, you almost treat them like tarpon. Which, it's like tarpon's ugly cousin. No one really wants to take them out anyways. But to remove hooks, to do stuff like that, especially if you're fishing canals, you're not going to get in the water for a carp. I just recommend, like I said, when you hook one and you do that, take your time to revive them, because they're going to give it their 110% to not come to the bank. And I've spent, 15, 20 minutes reviving a carp. One will swim off fine, and then you see him kicking around on the surface on his own, and you got to go, make the cast and hope sure nobody's looking, cast at it, try to get it, reel it back, revive it a little bit more, and then put it back out there. But, if you're targeting grass carp, they fight hard. They're fun to target, easy to target, cheapest fish on earth to catch, other than a bluegill.
Really? Yeah. I mean, if you buy a loaf of bread for $2.
Yeah, you go down to your local Publix, or like when we were younger, we'd go behind Dunkin' Donuts right before they'd close, and we'd get a bunch of glazed donuts to throw at these things.
Yeah. They definitely are a whole nother level. Is there any other invasive species that you like to target?
There's tons. So, I mean, for me, one that was introduced to me probably 2021 was the clown knife fish.
Yeah.
Now, when people talk about these, the one thing that was you can say all you want about you know, how they look and do this, but they're the
Mhm.
only fish on earth that can swim backwards as fast as they can swim forward. Now there's tons of fish that can swim, you know, a little bit backwards, but these clown knives can go to reverse, to forward, to sideways, to any way they want to go, like that.
Really?
So we fish for them. We get up alongside the boat. You know, you go to net this fish, it's going forwards, backwards, any way it wants, down, up. You know, they're a crazy fish to see at the boat. They act like a rodeo clown. I'll give them that.
Yeah, man. And the way that they it's wild. It's a
And
wild
you
thing.
know, if you ever look down the throat of one, it looks like a bad horror movie because it's just a throat full of teeth the whole way down.
It is, man. It
It
is.
look,
It is.
you know, it's you know, they're like the Megan Fox of invasive species. You know? You know?
Yeah, man. So since we got all that down, I think we've talked about like Cape Coral, things like that.
Yeah.
What are some other areas in like the Southwest Florida, South Florida kind of thing area that you can find these exotics for all the people that are coming down, snowbirds, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when you get down a little bit further south of us, you're getting into Estero, Golden Gate, some south parts of Fort Myers, and Naples. So,
Okay.
typically, there's a good amount of peacocks already established there. They've been there for years.
Really?
So you can hit up some of those spots, target fish easily, and that's where we're going to start seeing that more of a mix of tarpon and snook being involved with your peacock bass fishing, and especially down there. That's where you're going to typically fish your 3,000 to 4,000 size reels, a little bit stronger leader, because there's going to be a bunch of stuff along 41 and I-75, exit 105 in that general area, especially on the south side of things, where you can be pitching at a school of peacocks and a 40-inch snook will come up and bust on a shiner or bust on a crankbait.
Definitely. So if I come down and let's say I got a hotel in Naples or Fort Myers or something like that, and I head down 41, let's say I go all the way through Naples on 41, and I hit my I hit the turn where 41 cuts back left. How far down do I have to go to start seeing peacocks, or where do I start seeing peacocks?
You start seeing peacocks immediately. On 41, you can find peacocks. So you're going to go through a little bit of like a saltwater stretch going through Marco Island area as you're running 41 south.
Yep.
But as soon as you straighten out and you go like, we'll like 10,000 Islands, great example there.
Yeah.
There's a spill right there off the side of the road.
Yeah.
That high side comes out of the glades.
Yeah, and that's Port of the Isles for anybody that wants to know.
Yeah, Port of the Isles spill right there. It's huge. There's peacocks all on the top. There's tarpon on the top. There's snook on the top. And then the low side, there's snook, tarpon, sharks. Big drum move up in there, especially during the wintertime because the blue crabs move up in there.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there you literally could be fishing for 80-pound tarpon and 5-pound peacocks. There's 8-foot bull sharks that swim in there.
Exactly, man. It's wild. But when you see it in person, it's a whole different level because you got, runoff from the Everglades, a spillway, salt water, and then the tide will come in and go over the spillway, and the water will go the other way back into the fresh water. It's awesome, man. The Glades is Jurassic Park for sure.
Absolutely. It can get crazy in there. And then as you continue down 41, you're going to go through there. You're going to go through a whole stretch, and there's going to be canals cut on both sides of the road. So really from that point all the way to Miami, Kendall area, that whole 41's fishable. Biggest thing I will tell you guys, especially fishing down that way, there's 3 things you need to worry about. Alligators, snakes, because down through there you're going to see pythons, water moccasins, diamondbacks, all of that. And you're going to be standing on the side of the road.
Yep.
You're going to be parked on the shoulder, dodging semi trucks, the whole 9 yards. Now you can legally fish there. There are people fishing there. There's line trash stations along 41, but it's going to be from me to this wall behind me of cars flying by. So just be careful. Don't be fishing it at night. That's probably one of the dangerous things you can do because there's people that go out there and night fish. And I mean, I get it, but if the bugs don't carry away, the car going by at 80 miles an hour will.
Dude, I consider myself pretty experienced when it comes to fishing, right? I had an experience one time. I was down there and I was trying to cast net jeweled cichlids, right?
Mhm.
And I got my cast net. I throw my cast net on the jeweled cichlids. I knew that there was rocks there, but there were so many cichlids that I was like, I got to take a shot. I got to do it. So I got the cichlids in the net. The corner of the net is probably knee-deep water, and it's wrapped around some rocks. And there's some tilapia in the net flapping around and stuff like that too. And I go to walk down there to kind of pull the net. I don't walk all the way down, but I walk down a little bit trying to pull the net. Nothing happens. So I move over to another piece of the net to get a chunk of the net up off of the rock. And as I was like pulling it up, I heard a smack, man. It was crazy. And then the net started pulling away from me, and I'm like, what the hell? And it was an alligator, man. It was like 8 foot long. And, it was, a foot and a half away from me where he bit down, and, scared the hell out of me. And I've been down there my whole life, and, I pay attention to that kind of stuff, but accidents happen, man.
Especially, at night, and it just, they're ambush predators for a reason. And I'll tell anybody, if you're going to try to, goof around and be adventurous in Florida, be careful.
Yeah.
It is Jurassic Park here. We have 13, 14-foot long reptiles with teeth and bite pressure that'll carry you off into the wilderness like a midnight snack.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So when let's say I get to the reservation, right? Where the Indian land starts. Mm-hmm. That area, is that pretty good for peacocks?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's all sorts of stuff in there. You're going to see a lot more than just peacocks in there. I've caught jaguar cichlids there. I've caught Mayans. I've caught Oscars, peacocks, snook. There's a little bit of everything there. You're going to see your regular largemouth, bluegill, crappie, stuff like that. But
where the turnoffs for where the big spillways are, where the pipes come out the side of the dam, is that area like around the spillways any good for peacocks and stuff, or is that something snook and tarpon?
It's good. You're definitely not going to see as many snook and tarpon in there as you will at some other spillways as you're coming south. Yeah. But the biggest thing I'll tell you is there's a lot of moving water there, so pitch the outside, pitch current. There's also always a lot of fishermen down there.
Yeah,
because it is native lands. Native Americans, and especially in the United States, don't need the same fishing licenses that we do. They've got indigenous rights. So you'll see people down there filling up coolers full of stuff, and they don't have to abide by certain rules and regulations.
Yeah. How far down 41 do I have to go to get to the monster peacocks? The 6-pounders plus.
I mean, shoot, you really don't got to go that far anymore just because of how much stuff's been here that long. I've hooked 6-pound peas in Golden Gate and South. So, you don't have to go far. But if you want to go down 41 and start fishing, you're going to definitely weed through a lot of juveniles.
Really?
But big ones are going to be more towards the bottom. So that's where if you're throwing that shiner, maybe put a little bit of a split shot on them and get them by all the small peas first, all the Mayans first, other stuff like that.
So with that being that they're starting to grow, they've been there for a long time and stuff like that. What's the average peacock that you can find Naples and then east?
So I'll typically say that probably the average size peacock you'll catch is around 2 to 3 pounds. There's definitely a bunch of juveniles down there. The bigger ones know better. But when we go down there, it's cool to see. We see maybe a few bigger peas. I've known all the times that I've gone down there, it's probably your average size is anywhere between, about 2 pounds.
Really?
But I've caught 5-6 pounders down there. I've caught, half pounders down there.
Yeah, definitely.
But
definitely
2 pounds.
Yeah, no, they definitely there. There's a bunch of them too. Do you see any problems with peacocks in particular, as far as there's a lot of people out there that don't agree with them being here. Do you see any problems personally?
So the only problem that I see is misinformation.
Yeah.
A lot of people view them as invasives. A lot of people just kill them to kill them because they're like, oh, they're not supposed to be here. Yeah. So the biggest thing I'll tell a lot of people is they do have a size, the slot limit. They do have a limit per person for you to have. They taste good. They're good eating fish. They're white meat.
Yeah.
Typically for your freshwater fish, you want to eat them out of colder environments. But for peacocks, this is about as cold as they like it.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Definitely.
if you're looking to keep one, the younger ones are fine to keep. I think slot size is like up to like 16 or 17 inches. Don't quote me on that. But you can go on like Fish Rules or Florida Fish and Wildlife to find that out.
Yeah.
And then you're allowed 2 per person, and then you're allowed 1 over the size, but you're only allowed 1 of those per person.
Per day.
Yeah, per day.
Okay.
But the biggest thing I'll tell a lot of people is, with the peacocks, yes, they're invasive, or for them they look invasive. They don't look native. There's nothing about them that looks like a normal Florida freshwater fish, but they are introduced here to help us with keeping our native fish around longer. These peacocks are programmed from their years and years of genetics being in the Amazon to hit bright, flashy, shiny, colorful things. A lot of our local fauna is that dark, our bass. They're called ditch pickles for a reason. They're green and black.
Yeah.
They don't stand out. The bluegill, they don't hit nearly as much as they hit the Mayans, the tilapia, the jewels.
Yep.
These peacocks are going to eat the invasive before they eat the native. But they will eventually, especially if they start running out of other food sources. But trust me, they're not running out nearly as fast as people think they are.
In my opinion, like personally, I think that, and this is just my opinion from what I see, I think that tilapia cause more damage than peacocks by far.
I think tilapia are one of the worst invasive species we have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, the way that they take over local bodies of water is my issue. But if I were to, declare war on another fish, it would be the Oscars. The Oscars are the same thing, but they're aggressive. They're carnivores.
Yeah.
So not only are they doing the same thing that the tilapia are doing, but they're actually eating the bass. They're eating the bluegill. They're eating the crappie.
Yeah. No, that's definitely something, to think about when you're thinking about that, because a lot of people they blame everything on like the invasives, and then they leave out the spraying, and then a lot of people blame the spraying and they leave out the invasives, and we try to point the finger at one thing, but I think that there's multiple reasons, and I don't think that the invasives that a lot of people think are as bad as they think they are. It's like for instance, it's off topic, but veiled chameleons, right?
Yes.
Veiled chameleons versus an iguana. You know what I mean? It's like it's a big difference, and I think that's kind of how the tilapia and the peacock bass thing is.
Absolutely.
I think that the peacocks do eat food sources that bass may, like regular largemouth bass, may not get a chance to eat if you really break it down to the root of it. But
they're definitely eating the shad population and the shiner population of just nature's regular abundance of them. But the same way the bass have adapted to eating the jewels and bluegill, and they've always eaten bluegill, but the Mayans and small stuff like that. I can't tell you how many times I've pulled up snook and there's Mayans in their bellies.
Oh man, another one that's off topic, but when Burnt Store took the spillways out, I was fishing the canals back there in Metlache in the community, and dude, I counted probably 30 redfish that had tilapia stuck sideways in their mouth that they couldn't swallow because the spines got in their throats, crooked and all that stuff. So, I mean, I think one of them we should definitely be pointing the fingers at is the tilapia.
There's a lot of fish that get a lot of hate, and sometimes it's the wrong fish.
Yeah. What do you think as far as like what you could do to help some of these things? What would be something that everybody could do to do their part to kind of try to save the whole situation with the invasives?
So, I mean, if you want to make a difference here in like your local body of water, your local pond, your local spot, the first thing I'm going to tell you is try to leave as much predators in the pond that you can.
Definitely.
So if you start removing big breeders, there's all these new things that are going around. There's bow fishing, there's spear fishing, gigging. There's some fish you can legally target with whatever means necessary you want to target them with. But if you're going to go into your local pond, especially here, and you want to make a difference, remove the tilapia.
Really?
I'm not telling you to go out there and start throwing TNT in the water. But, if you're going to go out and fish a spot and you're going to go and target some stuff, you're looking for something fun to fight, target tilapia. The more we can wage war on some of these bigger invasive species like the jaguar, or not the jaguars, the Mayans, the tilapia, and the Oscars. There we go. That's the word I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
The more we can do those with those more aggressive breed 30 times a year kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be easier to target those and remove them to save your local body of water.
I mean, tilapia is a really good fish to eat, but the thing is that a lot of people don't know, man. It's so crazy. I didn't believe it until I seen it, firsthand. But if you go into like your grocery store, right, your Walmart, your Publix, whatever, take a bag of tilapia and flip it over and look at the ingredients and tell me why carbon monoxide is one of the ingredients on the farm raised tilapia. You know what I mean? It's like, so the thing that kills me is what you kill the bacteria in that fish with. Like, it's not good. So my thing is, if so many people eat tilapia, maybe that's a fish we should start, trying to eat,
Oh yeah. I mean, it's definitely a very well-known eating fish. I personally don't enjoy it. But I will never tell people to go out there and just throw fish up on a bank in a sense, because one, it looks bad. And if there's anything we've seen in the last few years, especially like here in Cape, is a war on fishermen.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't go leaving, at your local, you live in one of these gated communities, don't walk around flipping tilapia up in someone's backyard, because one, it's going to bring in predators, it's going to bring in other things. But if you're going to respectfully harvest fish and do all that, it's a little bit different. But if you're off in a pond somewhere over, BFE, and there's not a house around and you're going to leave the fish on the bank, I can understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know FWC's got a couple laws about like plecos and tilapia.
Yeah, the do not release law and
do
not relocate law.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, you're supposed to not put it back in the water if you catch it.
Yeah, you're not supposed to rehome the fish in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I know there's a lot of havoc that's caused by some of those things, but a lot of them are it's a touchy subject, man, because like peacock bass, like I love catching peacock bass. I mean, they're one of the funnest fish that I've personally ever caught. I match them with like close to tarpon, and tarpon is like what makes me sick.
It's pounds of difference.
Yeah. I think that they are the hardest fighting fish in freshwater, and I think it brings a big market to local bait shops and things like that.
Peacock bass bring on average about $9 million a year to the state of Florida.
Yeah, that's wild.
And that's just one fish bringing in millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And it's a cool thing, and a lot of people are starting to find out we're the only state in all 50 that have, well, not all 50. Hawaii actually has peacocks. A lot of people don't realize that. For the continental 48, we have the only peacocks. There's Hawaii that has them, and there's also Puerto Rico has them.
No way.
So they were introduced in Puerto Rico and they were introduced in Hawaii, but a lot of the Hawaiian peacocks are going to be up near some of your military bases and stuff like that. And I believe they got there by the same way that Florida Fish and Wildlife stocked ours.
Okay.
Because no one transported them to the island,
Yeah.
No one got on customs with thousands of baby peacocks and was like, I'm going to go release these in a pond.
Yeah, right.
They were stocked by local DNR or wildlife resources.
Yeah. That makes sense. To maybe cull one of their populations or whatever, if they have tilapia or whatever.
Absolutely. That's why, and then, and as much as we throw peacocks in with the invasives, they are an introduced species.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a big, touchy subject for a lot of people. But I know I love catching them.
Oh yeah, for the old Floridians, if it's not a largemouth or crappie or bluegill, it's not supposed to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've touched on the gear that you need. We've touched on live bait. We touched on artificial. We touched on where to find them. Is there anything else off the top of your head?
That's really about it, to be honest. I mean, you have your basic skills to go out and target them. If you guys are unsure or need to get any more information, my DMs on Instagram are always open. The shops you can always reach out to Native. Everybody there, including myself, BJ, Gavin, we're all good and informed on that. Really, any bait store in the area now is going to be pretty well informed on peacock bass and other invasives. And I will leave with a little bit of a good little tip if you want to make a difference as well. They've been adding some of these invasive species to the IGFA records. And one of them recently was the Mayan cichlid to help with calling on all of that and try to get the numbers down and, bring some attention to the species. The new world record Mayan cichlid is only I think 2.5 pounds.
Yep.
So for all of our,
not a big one.
No, it's not a big one. I've caught much larger. But for all of our guys out there that are, especially for some of the young kids, if you want to get out there and fish, see if you can catch that 3-pound Mayan. You get a little state record, a little reward from Fish and Wildlife. And, you're going to be making a difference, especially in the ecology side of things, helping them harvest and understand why these fish are getting so big.
I think with that one, you actually get like a gift card from Bass Pro Shops or something.
Yeah,
like
I think when you break a state record or a world record, in a sense,
like $50 or something, right?
I think it's a little bit more. I think when you get a trophy fish, like if you use 10-pound largemouth, you get a reward.
Yep.
But I think if you break a state record or something like that, I think it's like a little bit more of a gift card. You get a plaque, a free fish mount.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How cool would it be to have your, gigantic Mayan cichlid up on your wall,
Right.
Explain that to all your friends. But they're an easy fish to target. And again, they're in one of the invasives that are part of the issue.
And that would be going towards 41 for those two, like towards Naples, things like that?
The record got pulled from a canal in Fort Myers.
Yeah.
So, it is a local record. It is in a state record. And I believe it's considered a world record because it was the
biggest one.
Once they added to the IGFA or whatever it is.
Yep.
It became the world record too, because it's the only one submitted to that size. So
was it a record because of a line class too, or just
I don't think it was a line class record. But you really don't need heavy line to target these.
Yeah.
I just said he was fishing for them, and he started seeing how big they were, and then they saw Florida Fish and Wildlife had an open slot for a record. So he currently holds the record.
That's awesome, man. So if any of these guys had any questions for you, how would they reach out to you?
You can reach me on Instagram. It's going to be the easiest way to get a hold of me. Quite literally, it is exactly how it's spelled out here in the podcast. If you are just listening to the podcast, you just look up the Big Man Bassing on Instagram. I should be able to pop up, or better yet, you go over to Native's Facebook or Native's Instagram. You go on there, you look me up in the search history on their following and followers, and you'll be able to find me right from there. And a bunch of other of our cool guys that are super knowledgeable on fishing, especially on the native rod side of things. They're going to be on there and be able to answer your questions if you have any other fishing questions. Because I, as the Big Man Bassing, definitely take on some of the freshwater questions, but there's definitely some more qualified guys on there to answer some of your saltwater or offshore questions.
Definitely, man. And you also have a YouTube channel, right, where they can kind of see some techniques and hunt.
Yeah, for my channel, it's just simply like anyone every day can do it. Like I have the bread fishing for carp. I have shiner fishing. I don't go out and buy we're going to throw this this big mullet lure that's right here.
Yeah.
Never touch the water. I don't go throw that and say, buy this $150 mullet lure and go and throw it for giant snook.
Right.
I'll tell you the easiest way for you to get out there and hook into your next memory.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, I think we covered invasives.
Yeah. I think we did. Invasives, all the funds.
Yeah, definitely. You got anything else to leave them with?
Just get out there and, fish what you want to do. If it's your passion, make sure you get out there and hook into a good memory and have fun with it, man.
Definitely, man. All right, man. Well, I'm BJ again. I'm from Native Rods, Native Bait and Tackle. If you guys need any custom rods, any tackle, any leader, line, lures, live bait, know where to find us. My shop's in Fort Myers. It's 13016 Palm Beach Boulevard. We do. We catch fish. We everybody that works with us, we all know how to catch fish. We all fish regularly. It's not one of those shops where you walk in and people are assholes to you and like you say, "Hey man, what's biting?" or something like that, and they're like, "Oh, fish," or "Where'd you catch that fish?" and they say, "In the water." Like I know me and Richard personally, every day that we're there, we will drop pins for people of here's where you go catch peacocks, and get you step by step. We'll get you right with tackle, and we're not one of those people who are like, "Hey, you got to spend $2,000." Yeah, look at the pin.
They are color coded. You asked me, I got you.
Yeah. We definitely, we're not the ones who are like, "Hey, you have to spend." Even though we do custom rods, and they're not the cheapest things in the world, we don't push people to, their first fishing trip to go buy, $2,000 worth of gear. We're all about, buy the $30 combo, buy your pack of bread, and
get started somewhere.
Get started, man, because unfortunately the fishing community is like a dying community almost, man, and it's really sad. Because there's so many places in Southwest Florida that are now like, hey, no fishing, or you got the Karens from wherever that are like, I'm gonna call the cops on you for fishing in my backyard, and yeah, man. So we're the exact opposite of that. We're gonna put you on fish, and our DMs, the shop DMs, is always open for anything like that. If you ever have any questions about spots or anything.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget to check out our website too at nativerods.com.
Yeah.
We've got tons of apparel over there and tons of cool stuff you can build your rod with. And, if you want to submit a cool build, do all that. And if you find some of our guys on Instagram and you find some of, like, especially you come to my page, some of us have, some magical little discount codes, get you some money off any purchase over $100.
Yeah. So, I think it's only right if you give them that code and you tell them what it does.
Oh yeah. I mean, for me personally, it's the big man bassing you use at checkout, all lowercase, all one word. And you get $25 off any $100 or more purchase. But we should be doing some cool stuff here soon too. Some apparel releases. Yeah,
definitely, man. So if you use his code, it's like he said, it's the big man bass in one word. It gets you $25 off of 100 or more. So you can buy a T-shirt and a rod, or a sticker and a pack of lures or whatever. And Richard's promo code will work. We're always trying to do deals and get people fishing, man. So if you go on and you check out his Instagram, his YouTube, everything like that, our stuff, all the information that you need will be in there somewhere, and you can always reach out to us. But I think we nailed it, bro. I think we killed the invasive thing. So
absolutely, I'm sure there's gonna be more for us to talk about soon because we're seeing more and more stuff pop up all over the place.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Only a matter of time before we have new ones to talk about.
Yeah, so we're going to have an invasive part 2 probably very soon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We'll probably be talking about more stuff moving to the state because, there's 33 species of invasive fish in the state, and we've only talked about a handful.
Yeah, I think we got like maybe 6 of them.
Yep.
7 maybe. Yeah, cool, man. All right, well, I'll see y'all later. Y'all have a good afternoon. Tight lines, as Richard says.
Get out there and hook into your next memory.
Hey, see y'all boys later.